Coming up, a new tribal consultation process in Illinois will shape how the remains and relatives of cultural objects will be returned to communities. And we meet one of the experts behind the nation's most up-to-date and complete database on Indian boarding schools. And Alzheimer's disease and dementia create unique challenges for Native American caregivers. We'll have those interviews plus headlines ahead on the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Hopa. I am Aaliyah Chavez, and thank you for joining us. We start today in California, where members of the U.S. Congress are calling on the federal government to put action behind their commitments to address the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous people. Last week, California Senator Alex Padilla and Representative Jared Huffman sent a letter to U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland. They are asking for the Department of Justice to place dedicated personnel in California as part of the agency's MMIP Regional Outreach Program. The DOJ recently rolled out a plan to place attorneys and coordinators in 10 states to address the MMIP crisis, but the Golden State was excluded from that list. Lawmakers say that's an issue because the state has the largest population of Native American people in the country, as well as the 5th most MMIP cases. Also signing onto the letter were California Senator Dianne Feinstein and Representatives Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff. Now to Colorado, where federal officials last week changed the name of a prominent mountain. It comes as part of a national reckoning about race, geography, and history. The U.S. Board on Geographic Names voted overwhelmingly to change Mount Evans to Mount Blue Sky. It came at the request of the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes and with the approval of Colorado Governor Jared Polis. The Arapaho were known as the Blue Sky people, and the Cheyenne hold an annual renewal of life ceremony called Blue Sky. The peak, which is over 14,000 feet tall, was previously named after John Evans. He was Colorado's second territorial governor and former superintendent of Indian Affairs. Evans resigned after Colonel John Chivington led an 1864 U.S. cavalry massacre of more than 200 Arapaho and Cheyenne people, most of them children, women, and elders. That was at Sand Creek in what is now southeastern Colorado. Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes Governor Reggie Wasana called the name change a huge step to begin the healing process. We turn now to football, where officials from the Washington football team say the Commanders' name is here to stay. Team president Jason Wright said a return to the former team name, which is a dictionary-defined racial slur, is not being considered. The team changed the name from the R word in 2020 to the Washington football team and then to the Washington Commanders in early 2022. Some were unsettled, however, after a Change.org petition calling for the R word name to be restored reached over 100,000 signatures. Hopes for that return are now fully shut down, but it is unclear if the Commanders' name will be permanent. The Commanders and the team's new owners say they have been working with the National Congress of American Indians to learn how to truly honor and respect Native people, leaving the derogatory name and mascot in the past. Above the medicine line, a university is aiming to make living more comfortable for Indigenous students. The University of Waterloo in Ontario is building a 500-resident dorm geared toward the needs of Indigenous students. It will include a healing garden for growing medicinal plants, a smudging center, and a place for live-in elders to meet with students. Vivek Goel, the president of the university, says the connection between on-campus living and higher grades means that living accommodations should be made as comfortable as possible for all people. The building's design was in collaboration with Two Row, an Indigenous-owned architecture firm. Groundbreaking is scheduled for July 2024, and it is set to open in 2026. Well, who really controls art? The artist or a government-run and owned museum? The question is coming up a lot more following George Floyd's murder by police officers in 2020. There was a rush to support people of color and inclusion, including through public art, but that art is often controversial and some cities want it removed. A museum in Mesa, Arizona was supposed to launch its fall exhibition last week. There is a 6-week pause while museum officials add a disclaimer saying that the artwork represents only the artist's views. That's too much for Thomas Breeze Marcus, who is Acamel and Tohono O'odham. He says this amounts to censorship and he will not display any of his work in Mesa. I'm happy to walk away from that situation, Marcus said. He added that next time he will ask for a written promise of zero interference. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. In Illinois, Native people are getting help to create a new cemetery for the remains of their relatives. Here's more on that story.
The boxes we are looking at are housed at the Illinois State Museum Research and Collections Building. In August, Illinois Governor Jay Pritzker signed the Human Remains Protection Act. The new state law is an addition to a 30-year-old federal law requiring the repatriation of human remains and sacred cultural objects. These items were removed from burial sites as Native people were forced from their lands they have lived on for thousands of years. Brooke Morgan, who works at the museum, says the area includes so much history because of how many natives traveled through the area.
What is now Illinois was really a crossroads in a place where lots of people lived throughout the past and built monumental architecture like mounds, interred a lot of their deceased relatives in those mounds, and then the mounds were disturbed through looting, through bulldozing, through excavation.
Morgan also talks about the interest in removing items from museum boxes and burying them in museum grounds.
The biggest things about the law, which we're very excited for at the museum, is that it allows the state to create reburial areas on state property for repatriated Native American remains.
Potawatomi citizen Matthew Busler sees this as a way to begin the healing process for communities whose own histories were dug up and put in those cardboard boxes.
And when you remove them from there and put them into a cardboard box in an institution to collect dust for 100 years, it's extremely detrimental on the emotional and spiritual well-being of that community.
Busler, who is his nation's tribal preservation officer, talks more about how tribes are being consulted and how meaningful those talks are.
I believe that the state of Illinois and the Illinois State Museum has made a ton of progress. They are trying their best to listen to the tribe's perspective, listen to our concerns, and then now develop these mechanisms to allow our concerns and everything to actually be applied instead of just being heard.
Curator Brooke Morgan adds that it is important to educate and acknowledge that Indigenous people's history is older than the state.
And then it's also important for just educating the people of Illinois on the significance of archaeological sites, the significance of mounds, and the fact that Native people are still here. And though they might not be headquartered in Illinois, they have historic ties to Illinois and want to be part of the narrative of Illinois history and want to look forward to establishing better relationships with the state of Illinois.
It's kind of a little bit of an apology, I feel like. You know, they're trying to make things right, perhaps. And I mean, that's the most optimistic way I can look at it.
The Illinois State Museum holds the second largest collection of Indigenous human remains and sacred items in the country. But in its history, it has only given back 2% of those items. In Bismarck, North Dakota, Vincent Moniz, ICT News.
All right, bro, I gotta bounce.
Come on, 5 minutes.
All right, 5 minutes.
Dude, best episode ever, I'm telling you. Cool? Yeah, hands down.
Give me your phone.
For what?
When I tell you to do something, you do it.
Hey, hold up.
Hey, what up, Neff? You okay?
Yeah, I guess.
I've known you since you were eating dirt. What's eating you?
Well, my friend, his girl keeps hitting him and he doesn't do anything about it.
Sounds like an unhealthy relationship. Hey, I'm proud of you for having concern for your friend. Not many people stand up for what's right.
What should I do?
You can talk to him about it. You'll let him know that you saw what you did. Just be there. Listen, if he wants to talk.
Think that'll help?
Only one way to find out. Hey, abuse is not okay.
Hey, Tyson, what's up?
Not much, man.
I saw what happened the other day.
What are you talking about?
I saw what happened between you and Becky. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I kinda do.
Know someone in an unhealthy relationship? Don't back away. Seek advice from someone you trust and look out for one another. After all, we are native.
In a healthy relationship, I deserve to be loved and safe.
The National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition does powerful work addressing the lasting harms of a troubled era. One key component of the effort is building a list of all of the institutions involved and mapping them. ICT's Stewart Huntington visited with Deidre Whiteman from the coalition to talk about her database work.
Milakiapi, Chantewashte Nape, Chuzapi, Aishkian Wachiankapi Kdeye, Deidre Whiteman Amakiapie, Maniwaka Oyate Himataha.
Deidre Whiteman, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
The National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition has just released some powerful new data and tools. Tell us about them.
Yes, we just released our digital map. This digital map was years in the making. We collaborated with the National Center of Truth and Reconciliation out of Canada. But previous to that, we didn't have a digital map, but we had a map that was more of a resource for people who would come to our page. But now this map is more interactive and it's able to give you more information and more details if you're looking for a certain and specific school and location.
And you guys continue to grow the number of institutions that fall under this era of American history.
Yes, we do. We recognize that it's going to be ongoing. As you know, in 2020, we just released a map in 2020 with 367 schools. And so right now in 2023, we're at 523 schools. So we know and recognize that this is going to be an ongoing research process.
The lack of data and access to records has helped keep the facts about the boarding school era in the dark. You guys are doing some amazing work changing that.
Yeah, it's very important work. The feedback that I've been getting and receiving from just community members, family members, and friends is that this hasn't been done before. And then to see it on a larger scale, especially with our digital map, it's truly gives you I guess a kind of a glimpse into how these policies that were put into place to put children into these schools and these institutions it goes to show that there was no link when you see the vast number and then you see it more in a visual scale. And so it's for myself, it's pretty heartbreaking, but it's also makes it, I guess, I don't want to say inspiring, but it also makes me want to know more about my family's history, especially my grandparents who went to these schools. And it, for myself and my family, I know it's part of our healing process. I grew up knowing that my grandpa and my mother's side went to boarding school, and I just seen how it affected my family just on my mother's side. And so even as a child, I was 8 years old, and I understood what a boarding school was. I understood that it wasn't a good place. It was a place that where my grandpa went and he was changed. That was my concept of boarding school at that time as an 8-year-old. And I've seen how it shaped and changed our family. So this project for myself is it's like a healing. It's a healing in of itself. And I just hope that, other families are able to, navigate through this information and find out more about, their family's history as well.
What are the next layers that you hope to put over this map?
A lot of questions have been asked is how many students were at these schools, what tribes were represented. And that information is really, we have to do some, we're only a team in my department, we're only a team of 2, and there's 523 schools that we still have to get more information from. And so our organization is really committed and wants to further find all this, additional research. And that's why we are advocating for our bill, our Truth and Healing Commission bill, S-1723. So if this commission is passed in legislation, it'll give us access to these records, and it'll give us have a more formal inquiry into the records and more information into these schools.
Is it painful sometimes when you meet the people, the families, the descendants, and the survivors who have been through some of the horrors of the era?
There's only one word to describe it, and for myself, it's very heartbreaking. But it's also fuels my passion to know more about the history, to continue on with this work. When I have the honor and the privilege to sit down with a survivor, and then and I'm able to listen to their story, it just it is heartbreaking, but it also, like I said before, it just really compels me to keep doing the work that we're doing, because it's important. It's really important work, and everyone needs to know that this is what happened, and we still have a legacy from these schools that's still happening in our communities to this day. And so this is why we do the work that we do.
Deidre Whiteman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Current data shows that Native American people are more likely to develop Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia when compared to their white counterparts. It is a brain disorder that slowly destroys memory and thinking skills, and unfortunately, there is no cure that currently exists. Next month, the Native American Outreach Program at Banner Alzheimer's Institute will host its annual Caregivers Conference. Heather Mulder is the organization's Associate Director of Outreach and joins me now in Phoenix with more. Hello to you, Heather, and welcome to the ICT Newscast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Let's jump in here. Tell us how this conference first got its start.
Well, this is actually the 17th annual conference. We did have a 2-year hiatus a couple years ago, but we've been hosting this conference for 17 years, and really, this was just identifying a need. We saw that caregivers and professionals in Indian country really needed access to reliable and accurate information. And so we started the conference and have only received great response since then.
What are the biggest challenges for Native American caregivers right now?
I think a big challenge specifically for Native American caregivers is lack of internet access in many communities. So many programs, especially over the past couple years, transitioned to virtual offerings, and that excluded so many tribal caregivers from being able to access that education, that information, that support. And so our outreach program really was creative when we tried to figure out how do we still support tribal caregivers, knowing that setting up online education likely won't be reaching them.
This is an issue that it seems almost everyone either knows someone or has a family member who deals with either dementia or Alzheimer's. Tell us what some of the earliest signs are that we can observe.
Really early on, it's hard to pick up on because people are really good at compensating for the changes that they're experiencing. And we have phrases that are common parts of our nomenclature, like a senior moment. And there are normal changes that happen as a result of aging. You have a more difficult time paying attention to things, keeping your focus where you want it to be. You find you're more distractible, maybe a slower processing speed. It's harder to learn new information. It takes you longer. As opposed to someone who is maybe developing early dementia, I think one of the key differences is going to be short-term memory changes. As a normal part of aging, we expect someone to struggle more with their long-term memory. For someone who's developing early Alzheimer's disease, they're struggling with their short-term memory. So asking the same question over and over, right? Repetition is like that hallmark sign that we think of with dementia. Misplacing things and losing the ability to find them. We use short-term memory all day long. And so you'll see changes in a lot of different areas, things like being able to prepare a meal, paying their bills, cleaning their home, navigating in familiar environments. All of those require short-term memory. And so there's much broader reaching implications from having an issue with your short-term memory. I think another big difference between normal aging and dementia is going to be frequency and severity. So we talk about those senior moments, and sometimes, we have trouble finding a word and we laugh it off and we say, it's just a senior moment. But for someone with dementia, they'll also have that tip of the tongue experience, but then it's going to happen again and again. It's going to get more frequent and more severe as time goes on. And I think finally another big difference is a change in who you know that person has always been. A normal part of aging, we would expect that if you've always been very extroverted, as you age, you continue to be very extroverted. If you've always been more of a wallflower, more introverted, as you age, we would expect you to stay more of the wallflower. But for people with dementia, they experience complete swings in their personality, in their decision-making, in how they like to spend their free time. So a change in who you know that person has always been should be raising a red flag that something that's not a normal part of aging is going on.
One of the goals of this caregivers conference is to be able to equip Native American caregivers with tools to be able to speak specifically to medical professionals. For folks watching this at home and maybe can't attend, what is one of the biggest tips that you would give them?
Oh my gosh, I have two. So number one, a lot of caregivers struggle with communicating with the doctor. They take their person to the appointment and they think, well, how can I tell them what's really going on behind the scenes with the person sitting right next to me? The person likely doesn't have insight into all the changes that have been happening. And so the caregiver really struggles with, how do I make sure the doctor has an accurate picture? So a great suggestion for that is to take notes. Have a journal or something where you're writing a list of different things that you're noticing in your person down and be really specific. Write down the time of day that this is happening, the frequency that it's happening, and then bring it to the appointment and give it to the front desk. before the person even goes into the appointment, say, please give this to the doctor ahead of time. Try to get their email address where you could get them that information so they kind of have that before they walk into the appointment. I think another big key is always be an advocate for your person. You know, diagnosing dementia is not an exact science, and a lot of primary care physicians don't have a comfort level making that sort of diagnosis or don't have the experience. So if you know that something is going on and you're not getting the answers that you need, keep asking the question. Keep advocating for your person until you get to the answers that you need.
We speak so often in Native American communities about advocating and standing up for your elders, and it sounds like that falls right in line. Heather, unfortunately, we've run out of time today, but thank you so much for being here and for the work that you do.
Absolutely.
Coming up tomorrow on the next ICT Newscast, we will learn about a bill in California that would ban universities from using Native American remains or artifacts in teaching. And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.